This is the Men's Room Podcast, where relief is your duty and your innate self is most welcome. I'm your host, Ish Mendoza, and I am thrilled to have you back. This episode, we are going to be continuing our conversation with the very talented Mr. Blake Bauer. We're going to be talking about friendships and relationships and self-isolation. We're also going to be digging into the publishing process that he took when writing his books, as well as his awesome board game design, and much, much more. So without further ado, let's get into it. You talked about you living in the Bay Area and living alone and kind of, working from home and doing all the stuff living alone. What city did you live in specifically when you were in the Bay?
I lived in the city of Pittsburgh, California.
I know Pittsburgh, California.
East Bay.
It's a deep East Bay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right next to Antioch, which is probably the cheapest city to live in the Bay is Antioch, but Pittsburgh got to be a close second.
So growing up, being a twin, being very close to like all these people and relationships and stuff, and I would venture to say, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but you're more of an extroverted person, right?
That's factual.
Okay. How was that experience of living alone?
That was probably one of the hardest years of my life. So to give you guys a little bit of setting the scene, so I had recently met my wife in Modesto, California. We had dated for maybe 3-4 months. And we got serious very quickly, and I was working for a startup at the time. I was doing marketing for a startup. Great guy. He's one of my best friend's dads. Loved working for him, but I needed like kind of a big kid job at this point because I was like, I want to get married, so I need to get like a better salary. I need to get health insurance. I need to get benefits. I need to set myself up for a successful future. So the best way to do that was I got a job working for Grand Canyon University as an admissions counselor, and which required me to relocate to the Bay. And the plan was always like, go work out in the Bay. Maybe Cammie comes along. Maybe Cammie's my wife, for those of you that don't know. Maybe Cammie comes up there. Maybe I go back down. Maybe I like get a new job. But like I need to get my like kind of career kickstarted so that I can like provide.
Yeah.
And so I moved out to the Bay, and I was miserable. I was there for 12 months. I was there from August to August. And the August I moved there was August 2019. And if you, any of you are historians, you'll remember that about 6 months later, we had one of the biggest things to happen in American history in our lives, which was COVID-19 pandemic.
What's that?
Yeah. If you don't know, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, the COVID-19 pandemic hit in March of 2020, and I was already not making friends. I was living with roommates that were these like 40-year-old people that like played Dungeons and Dragons every night, and which nothing wrong with Dungeons and Dragons. I love board games, but it was not my scene and not my people. And I have lots of lovely friends and siblings, and I was kind of ostracized from the kitchen, so I couldn't really cook properly. So I was door dashing, and I was eating microwave meals, and I was working in my room, and I didn't have a proper desk, and I sat on my bed, and it was a small bedroom. And in Pittsburgh, California, there's a big train that goes right through, and I was 10 feet away from the train tracks. So I was not sleeping. I heard it all. It was a tough year. It was a great year, but it was probably the hardest year of my life. Yeah.
I mean, especially coming from, this sensation. I mean, you had roommates, but it was like a sensation of isolation, kind of almost purposely putting yourself in a, smaller room and stuff like that too, going into a worldwide isolation that we had, so you stacked it was a sandwich of isolation,
Yeah.
So yeah, I can only imagine. My experience was a little different. I relished the opportunity to live alone. I loved living alone. And so I had the true opportunity to live by myself fully in a studio apartment, in a 1-bedroom apartment, not even a dog, not even a pet, just living by myself. And I enjoyed that so much because historically growing up, I grew up in a small town, and I always had to, at the very least, share a room with a brother. Mm-hmm. And most often, all three of us, so there's 3 boys, we all 3 shared the same bedroom. So I never had my own privacy. The best I ever had was a bunk bed. So I had my own bed, like at least, but it was, stacked above another bed. I always envied my older brother that like had his own bed, all these other things and stuff too. But So given the opportunity to like live on my own and like hear quietness and all these things, I just loved it. You know, the timing was different because this was 2008, from 2008 to 2012. I pretty much lived on my own. And, you know, I did a lot of growing up during that time. So like literally like, you know, I'll admit it, like before I moved out away from home, my mom was still doing my laundry.
Nice.
So, you know, I use it as an opportunity. That's why I say like my college experience was different because like, you know, when I was going to Fresno State, my mom was still doing my laundry, you know, like
you didn't learn any of that like independent stuff until you were out on your own.
Exactly. So I had to figure it out, you know, and so that was that was more of my coming to age. I guess I'm a late bloomer in that regard. That was more of my coming to age because like I got my feet underneath me at the time, you know, I was working. So I had a not a career, but like a decent enough paying job that I was like, you know, making rent and stuff like that while going to school and stuff at night. So like I made it work. But yeah, my experience was just like, it was just pleasant.
That's so funny too that you bring up that because like my whole life, with the exception of a year here, a year there, was completely with another roommate in my room. Like had a little brother, shared a room with him, did the bunk bed thing. Before him, like I had a room to myself for a while, but it was like maybe at just like 6 to 8, and I don't really remember that, but like I shared a room with my twin sister even at one point. And then when I moved to college, I had a roommate, and then even post college, I had roommates that we shared a room to like get rent lower. Like even as a grown man, like a 22-year-old man, I'm sleeping in another room with another grown man because actually shout out Aaron Schwartz, who goes to our church.
Shout out Aaron.
Yeah, shout out Aaron Schwartz. Spent 2 years with him post college in the same bedroom because we were so poor that we split the room to save money.
Yeah.
And so like going from that to being in my own room and then like in a place with no friends, in a place with no family, in a place that people didn't really want to visit me, or like everybody else was there, so I visited them. No one visited me, you know, which sounds kind of selfish, but at the same time it was like I was so lonely. It was a dark time of life for me. Yeah, that was tough.
Do you feel like just like your natural self, do you find yourself energized to be able to spend time with people?
Oh, heck yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I getting a cup of coffee, going to watch a movie together, like I talking on the phone with people. I'm in a job right now where I do a lot of driving. Most of that time is spent either talking to my dad on the phone, talking to a friend who I know has a break at work, talking to a friend that might even have like a flexible job. Like I spend my whole day talking to people when I'm not working.
Yeah.
So I would say it's pretty safe to assume that, I get a lot of energy from interacting, spending time, learning, hearing, swapping stories, you know, talking shop even. Like that's really where I do get a lot of my energy.
Yeah, it's interesting because I discovered within myself, I always thought I was an extroverted person because I'm outspoken and I can go up to, you know, my wife will like fight me on this. She'll say like, you're an extrovert. Like, cause we'll go like pop up somewhere and she's like, you know, everybody, or someone knows you, or like, and so we'll like, you know, go random spot or whatever around town. And she tells me that kind of stuff. And I'll like chop it up, you know, like I'll go and I'll shoot the shit with people and stuff. And she will say something like, you know, like, yeah, you're always around people. Like, but what I discovered in myself is that like, I find such energy in even to this day. I mean, you know, now with the kids and the wife and everybody around me or whatever, I need my quiet time and my space. And that's kind of where podcasting, like I literally like, you have a really great gift in like you're building the relationships, having the conversations. Right now, my default and that I'm trying to kind of break out of is I'll pop in a headphone and I listen to other people have those conversations. I'm like, these are great friends. And I'm like, I've got friends too, you know, like
love it.
So, but yeah, so I'm trying to get better at that. But like my default is like, I find kind of like a way to re-energize by being alone in my own self. But it's a double-edged sword because I work from home. So I don't have a lot of human interaction, and I crave that. So there's a term called ambivert, I think. Ambivert. I don't know if that's a real word.
No, I've heard it.
But it's basically like you kind of live in both worlds, extrovert, introvert.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of parallels in that for me. So it's really interesting that like, I crave human interaction. Like sometimes like my wife will come home. She's like, you know, I've been home all day or whatever. She's like, do you need to get out of the house? Like, yeah, I just need to go to the grocery store or something, you know?
Nice.
Just because I can see people, and that was kind of also during COVID. Like, I struggle with that because I'm like, I'm already like living this remote life, and so like being isolated from the rest of society just like did a number on me for sure.
Man, I remember during COVID that my wife can attest to this, where we would just be driving down the 41, and I'd drive past River Park, and I'd drive past Manchester, and I'd be like, man, I just want to go to the movies just to be around people. I don't even care about what movie it is. I just want to be around people.
Right.
That's like kind of, and that's even where I recharge. Like, I can go sit in a coffee shop and like type out some work emails or read a book and be surrounded by a packed out coffee shop and not necessarily even need to talk to somebody, but like maybe you just have the rare like acquaintance or two come up and be like, oh, hey, Blake, what's up? But that is restful to me. Whereas I don't know if that would be an introverted aspect at all, but like that's how I can recharge just by sitting in a packed place.
Yeah. You know, one of my favorite places to be is an airport. Love people watching. I love just like, I mean, because in my mind, I'm like thinking about the stories. I'm like, are these people going to see a loved one? Are they coming from a different country? Do they have like an urgency? Are they on a business trip? There's always like this, like, and everybody's like zooming by and stuff. And I'm just like, I love the people watching.
If you're ever in an airport, actually, if you're specifically ever at the Fresno airport.
Shout out Fresno Airport.
Shout out Fresno Airport. Yeah. You need to go sit on in the same area of an Allegiant to Vegas flight. That is the best people watching ever. Allegiant to Vegas. If you're listening to that, you need to go sit at an Allegiant to Vegas flight.
Yeah, because there's always a story behind someone that's either coming from or to Vegas because, you know, what's the saying? Whatever happens in Vegas
stays in Vegas, yeah.
So
there's always going to be a good story behind pretty much everybody that's on that flight.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and now that the Raiders are in Vegas, I think that's a big
shout out Raider Nation.
Shout out Raider Nation too. Are you a Raider Nation?
Yeah.
All right, we finally have something in common.
Cheers, clink.
Cheers, clink. I want to change topics a bit because we talked about your books and self-publishing, but I'm curious about that process. Did you go through a publisher? Did you just have the intention to self-publish?
So kind of my process on that was I really had to sit down with my book and say, what's important to me? Is it important that I become like the next J.R.R. Tolkien? Or is it important that I put out my thoughts how I want them to be put out? And so I obviously like looked into like what it took to get your book published and like submitting it, editing it, getting like, you know, the guy that was going to like vouch for you and like go to Barnes & Noble, like you're an agent basically. And like the whole process of actually trying to get your book into like a retail environment and trying to get it actually professionally published. And to be completely honest, it kind of scared me off because I was like, I don't really want to have somebody edit my book to death, tell me what is going to sell better, because that just wasn't really important to me. Yeah. And I don't want anybody to think I'm pretentious, but like I really just wanted to like get my stories out. And if people read them, and I told myself, if one person reads my book and enjoys it and gets something for it, that's good enough for me. Yeah. Like it really was never like a professional aspiration for me. It was like, I have a good message and I want somebody to read it. I want somebody to be touched by it. And thankfully I've had like at least 5. So like I've done 5 times what I wanted to do. So I'm very proud of that. Yeah, for sure. And so the self-publishing process was easier, but it also allowed me to not invest a lot of money. That was like a big thing for me too, because when I published these books, I was dirt poor. I was working as a substitute teacher for Fresno Unified, and they don't give you benefits, yo. Like you get paid what you get paid, and if you can't find work, you don't get paid.
Wait, teachers don't make a ton of money?
What? Yeah. Don't be a teacher if you want to make bank, dude.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't even know the logistics about it though. Like, so obviously, I read a book that has a cover, and there's more than one copy because you brought your copy. Yeah, there's additional copies that exist out there. Curious about that process too.
Yeah, no, honestly, like Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing is what I went through, and it is a seamless, easy process. But everything in this hardcover book that we're holding on to was completely created by me. Like the cover, it is Adobe Illustrator. I did it myself. like completely designed it, designed the back, designed the spine, like did the edits, like did the dedication page, did the like Bauer Publishing, 351 East Monte Vista Avenue, Turlock, California, which is where I was living when I published this. Did the copyright signal, did the table of contents. Like I built this whole book from scratch. No one else had a hand in it at all. I'm very proud of that, but also like it was very important to me that I did that whole thing because I didn't really want somebody telling me what was going to sell or what was like important or what was good or what was bad. I didn't want to I didn't share this with anybody before I published it. Like the dude that wrote the foreword, which was Joy and Domison, and the guy that wrote my afterword, which was Jacob Wood, they were the only two to read my book before it hit the mainstream. And so like that was a very long tangent of saying like I created this whole thing by myself. No one else had a hand in it. But also when I put it through Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, all I had to do was upload the manuscript and upload the cover, and they put it out onto Amazon. It was literally as simple as that. I placed the price point. This price point right now that it's at, I think I'm not even making any royalties off of it because my other two books I make royalties off of if you buy it. This one I don't. And that's important to me because I made it just expensive enough to where I don't make anything because I want it as cheap as possible because this is like a message that's very important to me and very dear to my heart that if it comes down to like, I don't want to buy this because it's $12 as opposed to $7, like that's important to me that extra $5, if that's so important to you that it's keeping you from reading this book, like I'll eat that $5 for you. But yeah, Amazon pays for the publishing. They pay for the manuscript. They pay for the building it. They pay for me using their website, and they take a portion of that, and I get whatever is left. So if I price it at $12, usually Amazon's going to take about 7 of that. Basically, that's kind of how the self-publishing works. Like Amazon is the company that builds the book, that prints it. Like they even like ship it. They charge me for shipping and receiving and all that. And even like a little bit of the marketing because I have like an Amazon like publishing page. Like they charge me for that too. But it's nothing. They take it completely out of the cost of the book. So I'm not actually paying into Amazon.
Well, that's a really tremendous service, I think, for a lot of people. Maybe they don't even know about the existence of that.
I've put this on to like 3 people that are like, I want to publish a book. And I'm like, do Amazon Direct Publishing because it costs you no money and it's a way to get your book out into the world.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's if you're listening to that and you've had the idea of publishing a book, here's your sign. I mean, I dig it. Like, so you probably don't consider yourself a graphic designer, but like, you know, I'm one for aesthetics, and I think it's really spot on. So
that was during my marketing phase, so I was like really in the groove of like the aesthetics, and, which I think. I mean, I recently published another book, and that one is I self-designed the cover of that one too, and I'm proud of that one. But this is probably my Mona Lisa right here.
Yeah, it's well worth anything you're paying for it. So I highly recommend it. It's so good that, you know, I personally went out and bought another one of your books, you know? So
yeah, well, I honestly appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk about it too, because like I'm very proud of the work I put out there, and I'd love as many people to read it and to connect with it and connect with the characters, connect with like the messages, like as many as possible. So thanks for like letting me come on to the show and plug it, actually.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's my pleasure to have you. I'm you know, more curious than anything. And so I love the opportunity to hear your story, your love for Harry Potter and Star Wars and all these things is really great, you know? And so that's a good opportunity to share about who you are in this storybook that's like, it gets me like excited about like my own story. So I feel like it's inspiring enough to for others to be able to like be inspired themselves too. So
that's so cool. That's so cool that you got that out of it. I love that.
Yeah. I'm really happy, you know, to have read that and continue to read the rest of your books. I'm a supporter, and I want to continue to plug that as well. There's one thing I'm dying to know that I want to make it really recurring. So the book is filled with a bunch of funny stories and elements and things like that too, but is there something in particular that stands out to you for your funniest moment or joke that you heard or something that just kind of stands out to you that's, you know, that you want to talk about?
Yeah. So I'm gonna keep this story short, but one of like I think like the funniest things that I've ever done that I didn't even realize I did was one time in college. It was finals week, and I ended up staying up 72 hours straight. And if
God
you've
bless.
never, no, seriously, like I think I maybe took like an hour break in there, but I was a big time procrastinator, didn't do any of the papers. Like I had to cram everything for the finals. And so I was getting all my final projects done and just like I worked. That was my junior year of college. Stayed up 72 hours straight. I was so delirious from that I literally was sitting in the cafeteria thinking I had the power of telekinesis and literally like raising my hand, concentrating, trying to like levitate my buddy's hat off his head. And I don't remember this happening. So like, this is like, I mean, Christian kid, didn't ever do drugs. I smoked weed one time in my life, hated it. This is probably what I imagine it's like being on psychedelics, where it's just like you were doing the craziest shit and you have no idea what's going on. But they filmed me, and there's like a video out there. I don't know who has it anymore, but there's like, I was being so ridiculous and so convinced that I was like powerful. I'm like in this video saying like, I have achieved immortality. Like I'm going off, trying to levitate people's hats, like being a total weirdo. And I attracted the attention of like probably 40 or 50 people, and they're all just sitting around having a good laugh at Blake. And I feel like that's the essence of who I am. I'm an entertainer. I love to make people laugh, even when I'm not even conscious I'm doing it.
Yeah, you're the bringer of joy.
Yeah. So that's a good memory for 40 to 50 people. And I love to tell that story because that's like, just wraps it up of the dumb stuff I do, but brings joy, man. So who cares?
The funny thing is that it's probably also someone else's funniest moment as well.
Probably. I'm sure that there's a couple people that go to like home on Thanksgiving like, oh, there was this dumbass dude in college that thought he stayed up all night. He was like, watch this video, mom. Like, I'm sure that's out there.
Yeah, they're like, I think he was on drugs. I'm sure there's
just like probably some like little bit of legend built up around it. Like I like to imagine that like people are like, oh my gosh, this guy was crazy. Like they don't even know me, and they just like didn't even realize like I was just delirious.
Yeah, I'm over here dying too, so I can only imagine what it must have been like to be there in person to experience that too. So thank you for sharing that story.
Absolutely. Jokes are hard because they always require context, So
for sure.
I'm not going to talk about like chicken crossing the road or anything like that. Nobody jokes like that. Jokes are stories, Jokes are funny things that happen.
Exactly. I think that if you think about the times that you've laughed the hardest, it's not on a formal joke. It's probably like something that someone has done or you've done, and it's an experience that you've been a part of. Yeah.
There was like a point in my life where I carried around a notebook and I was like trying to make like a stand-up comedy routine. And I realized I'm a better performer than I am like a joke writer. So I'm trying to find that perfect pairing where I can find a guy to write my stuff. I'll give him like a couple stories and say like, write comedy, and then I'll go up and perform it, and we'll see how that goes.
I think it's called punching up. So like you can be a comedy writer probably, like that shows it, because comedy's all about observations and experiences and all that stuff too. Yeah. I do have I call it a tight stand-up set that I have too.
Nice.
A tight 6 minutes that I've kind of worked on too. My goal is by the time I'm 40, I want to hit up an open mic and just like bucket list, like go up and
that's on my bucket list too.
Is it? Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna do it. Fresno doesn't really have a comedy scene, so it might be an opportunity to.
Were you around when they did the back room of the Review that used to be Mia Cuppa? Mm-hmm. And they used to do open mic nights there, and people would do their stand up stuff.
Did they really?
Yeah, I went a couple times, and that's where I was like, that was the year that I was like, I'm gonna be a stand-up comic in Fresno. I probably
would have done that if I had gone to one of those too. Yeah, because every comedian has a story about like, one of my friends dared me to do it, and I got up there, and the rest is history. But I don't expect that for myself too. But it's something I have to do.
Yeah, you got to try.
Yeah, I have to do it.
It's not about making it; it's about doing it.
Yeah, for sure. So I've always like observed things and kind of written them down too. So I won't spoil it for the.
I look forward to the material.
I want to talk about your your board game. I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons kind of guy. I'm not a like a mythology like fan. I love I love certain things. I love Lord of the Rings and things like that too. But I don't kind of know the board game. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons. I guess I used to collect Pokemon cards back in the day, but I didn't really participate in anything like interactive in that way. So I'm curious about that. Like, what is that? Is it a cultural thing? Is it like an inspiration thing, or what is that?
That's actually funny that you bring up Dungeons and Dragons, because like the board game is titled The Path of Destiny, and it's kind of a comedy game, honestly. It has a lot of my own personal tone in there. It's a strategy game, it's a comedy game, but like Dungeons and Dragons isn't really my thing either, because it's too much of a commitment. Like, you got to get together, you got to like sit around for like 3 hours. You got to build characters. You got to there's just a lot that goes into it.
It's an investment.
It's a huge investment. And I'm not talking shit on Dungeons and Dragons. Like, there's a lot of people out there that love it, that are good at it. I've sat in on sessions and watched, but it's too much for me. And this board game is basically like, if you don't want to commit to Dungeons and Dragons, but also want to poke fun at it, this is the game for you, because it runs about every 2 players increases it about 45 minutes. Okay. So like 2 players, 45 minutes. 3 players, whatever 45 plus 45 is, we've already established I'm bad at math. Like, hour and a half. And then 4 players, 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's where we're at. So like, it's a very shortened version that you can start at the beginning, get to the end, have your game complete in about tops 2 hours if you're playing with like a family of 4.
Interesting. Can you give me like the synopsis or like the snapshot of, is it character based?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, this was also kind of where like my writing and creativity kind of came to play too, is because there's 12 completely original characters, yet they're not very original at all. They're based completely off of nerdy fandoms that I'm a big fan of. There's like a Boba Fett, like Star Wars bounty hunter character that completely unique backstory, but very heavily inspired from Boba Fett. There's like an Aragorn / Luke Skywalker amalgamation character. There is a pirate. There's a superhero, like a Superman character. There is a spy. I'm a big James Bond guy. There's a Mad Max character. Her name is literally Mad Maxine. So like there's no question to where they come from.
Yeah.
But it's like every kind of fandom kind of put into one board game and one unique world with your goal is to obviously defeat the villain, and the final villain, his name is Mordon. He is Sauron, Emperor Palpatine, Voldemort, all rolled into one. The very unique bad guy. Also kind of pokes some fun at like the corporate lifestyle. He has like a lot of like, he's like the head of HR and his like
capitalism.
Capitalism. Exactly. Like, it pokes fun at pretty much a lot of things in my life. So it really is honestly like, it's kind of another book of mine, like just put into a board game. Nice. Like it's a lot of who I am and a lot of things that I love all kind of rolled into one, poking fun at it. But also just a unique way to kind of get together and just enjoy yourself. Like, it's really a very light game. I call it Candyland for adults. Nice. You roll the dice, you move your character, things happen on the board, you can duel other characters, but it's not a very complicated game. It's just very fun and goofy, honestly.
How can people find out more and participate in it?
You can follow me on Instagram at _path_of_destiny_1. It's the Path of Destiny 1 Instagram account. If you follow my main account, it's on my bio, very easy to find. But I've been releasing little bits and pieces of information every few days. I think I've gone through all the characters, so you can read about the characters, you can see their unique powers, you can get a feel for the board, but hopefully I'll be able to kind of put it into production by Christmas time.
Nice.
That's my hopes. But right now, if you want to play it and you're very desperate to play it, text me, message me on Instagram, whatever, and we will put together a game.
Otherwise, it's going to be a great Christmas present for somebody for sure.
Otherwise, it will be a great Christmas present.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think it's more than anything, it's probably a good opportunity to like hang and build community, as well too. So
I don't know honestly, because like the only people that have played it are like my very close friends, and they're probably like way too scared of offending me. But if I had to guess, and if I could read my friends great, I'd say that it actually is a pretty fun game that we've had a good time playing.
Okay.
Like we've probably played about 10 test runs so far, so it's been played quite a few amount of times, and seems like it's fun.
Yeah,
so,
nice.
Yeah, I'll even invite you guys that are listening to this out there that if you want to come play a game, I can take critiques. Come play it. Tell me what sucks about it. Tell me what's great about it. You are open invitation. You can even comment on the Instagram and be like, this character sucks, or I like this character. Like, open invitation. I need the criticism. I'm not afraid of it. So open invitation for those of you that love board games and love nerdy stuff. Come give me some critiques.
Yeah, it's in beta right now, so you have an opportunity to like shape it into maybe something that you like to see yourself. So.
Exactly.
Did you ever see the show Parks and Rec?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You remember Ben Wyatt's game? What was it? The cone of Dunshire.
It's been compared to that. They're like,
Nice.
You are literally Ben, and this is the cones of Dunshire. And I'm like, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Well, yeah, I'm super excited. I'm gonna take you up on the opportunity too to probably gift it to someone come Christmas time too. So, Blake, you've been generous with your time. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to plug, or anything that you're working on that you'd like to share, or anything like that?
Because I love my wife dearly. My wife is actually a now professional muralist. So
Nice.
She has an Instagram at CMB_arts. I want to plug that for her. She has done a couple commissioned murals, and she's really, really talented. So go check out her arts page. It's really, really tight. She actually also painted the board for the board game, and was a huge hand in a lot of those character developments too. So very, very talented individual. We're a very artistic family. So gotta go check out her. She is definitely, as far as like the painting and the designing goes, she's the really talented one on that end.
Nice.
She'll do canvas work, and she can do sketches. She can do drawings. Like she's like pretty much anything that requires like pen, pencil, paintbrush, she can do for you. Charcoal, whatever, chalk. She just recently finished up a project for Fresno Pacific, and for the Student Life office, she did like a big, I think it was like a 16x8 wall mural for them. It was very cool. She did a piece for our pastor Ryan. She did like she did a gold leaf, like I think it was like Michelangelo painting, like the Sistine Chapel. It was she did like the arms of
sweet.
like Adam and God, like their fingers almost touching on his wall, and did it with like gold leaf over it. It's very, very cool.
Awesome. Anything else that you're in working on, or you'd like to plug, even a shout out to a homie or anything like that?
Okay, this is a quick story because this is great.
Yeah.
So my first job out of college, I was unemployed and desperate for money. And Wesley Coles was like, hey, this company reached out to me, but I don't really want to do it, but it seems like something you'd want to do. And it was a company called Hero Alliance. And for 5 years, I was Spider-Man at kids' birthday parties, doing kip-ups, doing kung fu, doing kicks. And it was like the best job I've ever had. And I actually got Joey and Dobe-san into it and got him on as the Black Panther.
As a Black Panther?
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Isn't that crazy?
You got paid to do that?
Dude, I got paid like $60 an hour.
What?
Yeah, it was good money. Like I got my rent paid off of birthday parties on Saturday. Like I would do like 10 birthday parties on a Saturday and just make bank, and that was like my rent for the month.
That's pretty cool. I mean, especially if you're like, you're a fan of like superheroes. And
Yeah,
like that too,
I love all that stuff. And so, yeah, Spider-Man was like my main guy. That was like who I did the most parties at. But I did like Power Rangers. I did Iron Man a couple times because I needed like a skinny guy to get into the suit, and I was like probably like $150 at the time. So I did Batman once, but that wasn't a good fit. I was kind of more like the teen, like kind of fun, preppy superheroes. So that was like, Spider-Man was like a good natural fit for me.
I could never do that number one for the spandex, but also there's no fat superheroes, so there's nobody I can represent in that.
Hey, I mean, like maybe Nacho Libre.
Nacho Libre,
there we
yeah,
go.
maybe, yeah.
I'm sure that they had some birthday parties like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm rocking the mustache.
Yeah.
Encarnacion. I want to say I really appreciate your time and the chance to get to know you better. And thanks for stopping by, man. I hope that this is not the last time. So if you're open to coming again when the weather's a little cooler, I think that
I would love to. I'm sure there will be plenty more to talk about. Thank you so much, Ish, for having me on the podcast. This was a super fun time, and I'm excited to listen to all the other episodes. And yeah, this is like a great idea, great community idea.
Man, it's my pleasure.
This is the men's room. I had to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Thanks for stopping by, and please go and find his work online. I will tag him and yeah, find all the publishings, all the works, all the fun stuff that Blake's doing. So, peace, my man. Thank you for stopping by.
Peace out.